Thanks for joining me again, guys. We're recording these a little bit further in advance than we usually do because, Stephanie, you and I are getting ready to go to the Inside Bitcoins conference in New York City on July 30th.
Yes, very exciting. We'll both be speaking there, Adam. We're going to have a meetup with our listeners, which we've recently updated as well.
We were going to have a meetup at EVR, which is Charlie Shrem of BitInstance. He's a part owner of essentially a bar.
It's in Manhattan, but it's not just any bar. It's a Bitcoin bar.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that was the plan. But actually, we've been talking with Jonathan Mohan of Bitcoin NYC, and he's put together a cocktail party that's going to be held at some sort of firm called Second Market. So we're moving the event to there. If you'd like to join us at that, you can check out the meetup. There's going to be a link in the show notes for this episode. And if you'd like to see us at Inside Bitcoins, make sure to check out the meetup group where you can find a 20% discount code to attend the event.
I am so looking forward to seeing everybody.
The day after, actually, we're going to be recording a show there. And the day after, we're going to be doing lots of interviews with lots of random people that'll be kind of on that longer side, like the ones that I did at Bitcoin 2013, where they're, in the 30 to 50 minute range. And you really get a chance to kind of dig into the project with them. So I'm really excited about all the content that's going to be coming out of this. And I actually have a project that is a little bit tangential to what we do here, but is totally related to Bitcoin. It's going to be an open source project. I'm in the throes of it now, getting it all together, trying to get it ready. So looking forward to talking about that at the conference.
Aren't you seeking collaborators on that right now?
I am always seeking collaborators. Thank you, Stephanie. It's especially with these open source projects. This is going to be my first time actually pushing out something like this. So like I said, I'm really excited to see it, but that's enough about us. Let's jump right into the news today.
Well, guys, I saw an interesting video the other day, and I wanted to talk about it on the show because it ties in with something that we had covered just pretty recently. We had talked about some rumors about Mt. Gox and their potential problems with liquidity or problems with solvency. We had read some speculation that was on the Bitcoin Talk forum, and that was not the only place that this was being speculated about. I mean, there were rumors all over the internets. I don't think that one forum thread was very unique. A lot of people were thinking the same thing. And that was, of course, that, Mt. Gox issued this kind of weird, fishy statement about, well, we had some problems covering these withdrawals, but now we've reached a new partnership with a banking partner, and now we'll be able to do it, but we still have a backlog and we can't do it quite yet. So people were saying, okay, what the heck is going on here? Did they speculate with customer funds, as so many bankers have done in the past, and it's gotten them into big trouble? This video came out, and the video is Roger Ver, who's someone that I really, really like and really respect and really trust. I mean, this guy gave me my first Bitcoins. I mean, he's just done so much for Bitcoin. So he's a really well-respected guy, and has been just working tirelessly on behalf of promoting Bitcoin for the last couple of years. In this video, he is reading a very obviously pre-prepared statement into the camera saying,
"I'm Roger Ver, longtime Bitcoin advocate and investor. Today I'm at the Mt. Gox World Headquarters in Tokyo, Japan. I had a nice chat with Mt. Gox CEO Mark Karpelès about their current situation. He showed me multiple bank statements as well as letters from banks and lawyers. I'm sure that all the current withdrawal problems at Mt. Gox are being caused by the traditional banking system, not because of a lack of liquidity at Mt. Gox. The traditional banking partners that Mt. Gox needs to work with are not able to keep up with the demands of the growing Bitcoin economy. The dozens of people that make up the Mt. Gox team are hard at work establishing additional banking partners that eventually will make dealing with Mt. Gox easier for all their customers around the world. For now, I hope everyone will continue working on Bitcoin projects that will help make the world a better place."
He released this video statement, and, people are kind of critiquing the delivery. It's pretty obvious that he's reading a statement, and I give him credit. It's hard to do that, right? It's hard to record something and make it sound really natural when you are reading a statement. But I guess the content of the message is something that I'm interested in. It's Roger, and he's saying that, he's seen Mt. Gox's finances, and they look like they're on the up and up, and everything's fine. Do we believe him? I guess that's the question. Do we believe him? And what's the purpose of sort of releasing a statement like this? Why hasn't Mt. Gox released a transparency report? And instead they're releasing this video. There's all kinds of questions. What did you guys think about this?
With transparency in mind here, I think we should disclose up front that Roger is a sponsor of Let's Talk Bitcoin. He's one of the primaries at Bitcoin Store and also blockchain.info. So just wanted to throw that out there that I'm not going to get too much into this, but we go out of our way to really separate content from sponsorships. That's why we have advertisements in the way that we do, where they're in such a very distinctly segmented format, separate from the rest of the content. And those are inserted after the fact. So we, again, the sponsorship from the perspective of our content has no impact, but it's important to me that we disclose that he is in fact a sponsor here.
Fair and balanced.
Or at least we tell you what we know, and then you get to make up your mind for yourself. To the actual point, Mt. Gox has been so bad about communicating that this is clearly, to me, an attempt by Roger to try and help them. This is not him going in because necessarily he's very concerned. This is him going in because there's a problem here. And if it's real, then that's fine. If Mt. Gox is legitimately insolvent, if they're legitimately having these problems, we talked last week about fractional reserve and how potentially they could not actually have as much as they were saying, because technically, so long as not everybody takes it out at once, you don't actually need to have full reserves under a conventional banking situation. I mean, that's what this is the problem is that once those rumors start going, they feed on themselves and they feed on each other. The reality becomes difficult to differentiate from what the rumors are after a while. And to a certain extent, it doesn't even matter. That's the real lesson, I think, to take away from this message from Roger, is that even if the message itself is positive, if it is contrary to people's expectations, and it has even the slightest appearance of being anything other than of free will and legitimate, then there are going to be questions called on it. Because again, why is this happening is the kind of driving thing. What is the motivation for it?
Well, I don't know if you noticed, guys, but if you look carefully, you can see that he's blinking in Morse code. And
help me.
I think this is probably the best communication Mt. Gox has put out. And that's because, their main problem isn't that they're insolvent. The main problem is that they're incompetent in communication. So in the history of their incompetent communication and customer communication, this is the best thing they've ever done. As far as I know, Roger has no financial interests in Mt. Gox. He's seen as a relatively independent guy. He calls it like he sees it most of the time. And so I think that was a great endorsement. And, next time they should get the necessary technical gear so that when someone's reading from a teleprompter, they can actually look into the camera at the same time and they don't get that zombie stare look. But other than that, I think that was pretty well executed. I'm glad Roger did it, and it gives me a lot more confidence in their financials to have someone like Roger say it. Now, what I'd like to see is more of a policy going forward that has transparency as part of the DNA of the company so that you can see what's going on. This is a space where we have no regulators, and regulators mostly help the incumbents, but they do occasionally do some audits and force companies to also publish books. So it would be nice if the companies in this space did that voluntarily.
Again, we get back to that transparency thing. What should a Bitcoin-based business look like in terms of transparency? Because right now the norm as it stands is it's no different than any other type of company. You keep as much close to your vest as you can because it's a competitive disadvantage to be transparent in case the books aren't exactly what you'd like them to be. Unless you have something really great to show people, there's no actual reason to do it, and customers don't demand it yet.
If you're the leader in this space and you've got the volume and you don't do that, here's the price you pay. When a rumor like insolvency goes out and you have no books to back any information about what you're actually doing, and you're forced to do account closures and to do temporary freezes, then you lose business. Sure, they have no reason to do it. Well, they have a very good reason to do it. The uncertainty is destroying their business.
That's kind of an interesting point. So what's Mt. Gox down to? Like 50%, 55% of volume at this point? I know that the number has continued to go down over the last couple of months.
They tout that 80% in 2011, but yeah, I think it's near 50% now, or maybe even less.
So are we seeing the slow motion car crash that is Mt. Gox come to, its inevitable conclusion? Or do we think that this is just a bump in the road and, as soon as they fix whatever this current problem is, according to Roger's statement, legacy banking system just simply isn't playing ball with them and isn't delivering at a level that is sufficient to meet demand? Do we think that they're just going to bounce back?
I really hope for the sake of Bitcoin that they are not insolvent. This gives me a little more confidence. The statement gives a little more confidence that they do have the funds to back everything up, and they're just having problems with the legacy banking system. Yeah, sure. Okay. Maybe I could believe that. And I hope it's true for the sake of Bitcoin, because if there was some kind of a scandal where they were insolvent, then, well, I was going to say it could be a real blow to Bitcoin, like people's confidence in it. But then again, maybe it just shows that Bitcoin is great because insolvency and fractional reserve banking are problems of the legacy banking system. You know, if we move away from these kind of centralized exchanges and we go to more decentralized kinds of exchanges, then maybe those wouldn't be a problem. And that is possible with Bitcoin, whereas it's not possible in the legacy system. So maybe it could go either way. I'm not sure about that.
Mt. Gox doesn't have an insolvency problem, just like before it didn't have an account freeze problem, and before that it didn't have a DDoS problem, and before that it didn't have a trade lag latency problem, and before that it didn't have a trade engine problem. What Mt. Gox has had consistently is an inability to communicate about these things that has harmed them again and again and again, because they leave their customers in the dark and the customers assume the absolute worst. As a result, it keeps hurting their ability to support the volume. So if you look at this as individual isolated incidents over a 2-year period, it's one thing. But if you look at them as a continuous failure to communicate effectively with their customers, you see the same problem of trust and transparency gradually eroding their business.
You know, one of the other things I think would be kind of interesting to see is in a future where really any exchange fails from insolvency, but it would be especially poignant if it was Mt. Gox. Should that happen, you can totally see how this would instill in the mind of the community such a skepticism about these financial institutions that are dealing in the Bitcoin space that I think you might have a real compelling reason suddenly to demand that type of transparency we were talking about previously that, you know, to this point hasn't really been required and so hasn't been offered.
Mt. Gox is running the most transparent exchange in history. All of their public relations releases are classified. And you have no standing to read them.
If I showed you a website where you could easily purchase electronics from the world's largest distributor with Bitcoins at 0% markup, would you think it was too good to be true? Good news. It's real, and it's at bitcoinstore.com. Choose from 500,000 items, save money over Amazon and Newegg, and convert your Bitcoins to real-world items. You can even buy with privacy. All they need is a shipping address. But don't take my word for it. See for yourself at bitcoinstore.com.